Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES.
Start your show now. Press 1 to hear important.
That is.
It appears that the host has already dialed into this show. Only one host is allowed per show. Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Title of the show, COVID-19 exposes our market farce. Karl Smith discusses the ramifications of COVID-19. Anyhow, folks, before we get started, I want to tell you, interesting title, right? What exactly am I talking about? What exactly do I mean by the market force? I want to just play a little part of Donald Trump's news conference that just got over. I ran to cut it up because I needed to make a point. But before let's go ahead and get the program started first. Why is the stock market up? It is a farce. Karl Smith discusses the ramification of COVID-19 pandemic in detail with respect to the numbers and government. The president is talking in spite of COVID-19 about the market starting to recover in the third quarter and taking off in the fourth quarter. If COVID-19 is somehow under control in those 2 quarters, it is clear that the market could only recover if it is stoked by the government. Could we develop Americans' well-being in that manner as well? Could we actually start saying, my God, if we can actually stoke the government, oh my God, we should be able to stoke as well the people, to make the people actually functional. Anyhow, I want you to listen to this and we'll take it on the other side. This is very important, folks.
As you know, they're trying to get rid of the glut of oil. There's a tremendous glut of oil, and we don't want anything to hurt our incredible industry. We're actually the largest producer in the world now. We've done well, and I guess the market thinks we've done well because we had the biggest stock market increase without one day, we're talking 4 days instead of 5, that we've had in 50 years. The airlines are trying to come back. Having low fuel costs is good for them and other reasons. Steel manufacturing, but a lot of the steel goes to building what we do for the oil and engineering firms. So, that's a double-edged sword. But we want to keep our energy. We want to remain independent. We will remain independent, I think, regardless. But we want to get rid of this tremendous overflow. There's no place to even store it. So the OPEC nations met. They've been meeting. And, I've hated OPEC over the years, absolutely hated them. But obviously it broke down. And we potentially have years' worth of supply, a long time before it ever can catch up, even if they do reduce it. Very vital business for the country. We're going to be meeting with Boeing. We're going to be meeting with a lot of companies that are great companies and were great companies a short while ago. I mean, we can't let anything happen to Boeing. It's, got so much potential. You talk about potential. Can anything have more potential than that?
We cannot let hello, Lee Grant. We cannot let anything happen to Boeing. And why can't we have anything to do with Boeing? You know why? Because the truth of the matter is the following. Nothing can happen to corporations. Nothing can happen to anybody but people. Folks, I want you to remember something. The laws of the capitalist system as they envisioned it says the following. Supply and demand, and not only that, companies that succeed will succeed, some companies that will fail will fail. Well, what they are doing is artificially pumping up something. If there is a whole lot of oil on the market, right? Let's say there's a whole lot of oil on the market. Shouldn't the price adjust to the oil so that naturally takes the oil off the market. That is how the system under their purview is supposed to work. But no, because some companies would be damaged, because the market would, their market, the market they believe in, the capitalist structure they believe in, would be damaged, they are willing to tell Americans, even though there is a glut of oil, you will not get oil at 90 cents. Even though the reason there's a glut of oil is because business is down, people are making less money, which means they should pay less for oil. But no, they're saying, absolutely not. We are going to still stiff it to you so that these corporations stay alive. I have a call. If you want to speak, caller from 734, please go ahead and hit the number 1. Please go ahead and hit the number 1. And I'll be sure to put you on air if that is your desire. So, folks, that is what I want to say. Let me go ahead and hear from this caller, and then we'll move on from there to continue with the show. Caller, come on in from 734.
Hey, Egberto, it's Anand.
Hey, Anand, how you doing, sir?
Oh, just trying to make it, quarantining and, just sitting at home doing nothing.
Well, I thought I saw some pictures of you working in the emergency rooms.
Yes, I'm working, but I have
I
some off
praised
days.
you. I praised you of one of our wondrous heroes that's out there helping all those with coronavirus. I think in Ohio, right?
Yeah, in Ohio. It's not too bad in Ohio. It's very bad in Michigan.
Okay. So how's it going, sir?
No, just trying to see what's happening with the economy, what's happening with the future. Bernie dropped out, so it's kind of a bad year, I think.
It's a terrible year.
Don't really see much future. Yeah,
For me,
bad
it
for the
has been.
economy.
Let me tell you, Anand, this year has started out so badly for me. Now things are getting better, of course. It started out with my mother-in-law dying, then my daughter got a stroke, then I have a cousin who got a stroke, and the economy is falling apart. So 2020 is a year I'm going to remember for all the wrong reasons. But I tell you something, Anand, we are going likely into a depression, and there's nothing that Donald Trump can do about it all with his happy talk. They're going to have to try to inflate the dollar using modern monetary theory. Now, if they decide to use modern monetary theory, we will reinflate. But here's a catch, my friend. It will prove the lie that the current economic system is, and it'll also prove that to keep a few people rich, what we've done is we've denied the possibility of investing in people over these years under the false pretense that we cannot afford it. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, well, I agree with you. I'm not so sure about monetary theory. I'm not an economist, but I do agree in general monetary policy has not been for the people, and we could adjust it definitely in ways that favor people. You could give helicopter cash, you could try all sorts of things, but, all these things that they said were crazy, the Federal Reserve is doing, and we need some sort of quantitative easing for people.
Let me stop you a second there, Anand, because what we're talking about here is actually important, what you just said as well. Everything that you mentioned, you said you don't know much about modern monetary theory. It's not necessary for you to know a lot about modern monetary theory, because guess what? You've just gave an accurate description on the different tenets that would be, the different things that would be implemented within modern monetary theory. Hey, Jose R. Gamboa just says, I pump gas at 78 cents a gallon. Yes, 78 cents a gallon today. And that is because of, this is a glut because people are not driving, people are not moving. So the price should go down with what the demand. So that is how it works. Go ahead, Anand.
Oh, yeah, I was just thinking the sad thing about the whole coronavirus is never has the left been proven so correct in every single diagnosis. We have employer-sponsored health insurance destroyed.
Right.
We're looking at 30% unemployment. That's half of the private insurance market will disappear if there's 30% unemployment.
Right.
Because 65% of people get their insurance from their employer. We're looking at coronavirus and a health system that is not designed to treat this. I was looking at the per capita results. Texas is the lowest of the 50 states.
Right.
In testing per million. Uninsured people, uninformed people, we have so many of those. So then in terms of the economy, I'm worried with some of these small businesses will never come back, and I'm worried that some of these major companies like Macy's, Sears, some of these airlines, they may never come back. Las Vegas may never come back people may never be in a crowded place again. So this may be more permanent than you think.
Anand, and that's my point, Anand. You just hit the nail on the head. That is my point. Things are not going to come back the way they did before. And the truth of the matter is, like I was speaking on a program before, first of all, it's not necessarily a bad thing because a lot of people are going to realize life could be simpler. This rat race that we run for consumerism, for which few of us actually profit, and I state this again, few of us actually profit from consumerism, okay? And it goes to the masses, and I mean, rather, the masses spend the money, and thereafter we have the issues that hurt. So I mean, it is important that we come to those conclusions sooner rather than later. So I mean, I have another thing I need to play here, Anand. So is there anything else you want to add, or?
No, that's it.
Well, look, brother, thank you so kindly for calling. That is Dr. Anand Bhatt, one of the supporters of Politics Done Right as well, and a great, great millennial activist that's actually a part of this system. In other words, making a difference. A lot of people just talk, these guys act. Thank you very much, my friend.
Sure. I'll try to write something for you this weekend.
Thank you, sir. I'll be waiting to publish. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, folks, so anyhow, I want to play you another piece here, and I hope it plays okay. Let me go to another type of screen here because this is rather important now. This is El Señor. The name of this guy is, I hope I get his name right, Shamath Palihapitiya. He's a venture capitalist, and I want you to listen to this entire piece that I'm going to play from him, because it is rather important, and I hope it comes out fine. Let's go.
But are you suggesting, you keep saying propping up zombie companies. Are you arguing to let airlines, for example, fail?
Yes.
Why? I mean, how does that make sense in the broader scheme of the economy?
Because it's not, because when you look at what it means, this is why I'm saying, like, this is a lie that's been purported by Wall Street. When a company fails, it does not fire their employees. It goes through a packaged bankruptcy, right? If anything, what happens is the people who have the pensions inside those companies, the employees of these companies, end up owning more of the company. The people that get wiped out are the speculators that own the unsecured tranches of debt, or the folks that own the equity. And by the way, those are the game. That's right, because these are the people that purport to be the most sophisticated investors in the world. They deserve to get wiped out. But the employees don't get wiped out. The pensions don't typically get wiped out.
Why does anybody, I just don't understand, why does anybody deserve, using your word, to get wiped out from a crisis created like this? How does anybody deserve to get wiped out?
Well, but just be clear, like, who are we talking about? We're talking about a hedge fund that serves a bunch of billionaire family offices? Who cares? Let them get wiped out. Who cares? They don't get the summer in the Hamptons? Who cares?
I mean, there are people. You don't think the employees?
Hold on, Scott.
You don't think the employees of these companies own stocks? I mean, own their stocks, own the company's stocks?
You can look on Bloomberg and you can see what percentage of these companies are typically owned by. These things are owned by BlackRock. These things are owned by these huge, amorphous organizations. Ultimately, downstream, and the employee owns a few $100s or a few thousand dollars of shares.
I just don't understand.
So
this is like a natural disaster. Why does anybody deserve to get wiped out? Wouldn't that be immoral in and of itself?
No, because what's happening right now is what I'll tell you is on Main Street today, people are getting wiped out. And right now, rich CEOs are not. Boards that had horrible governance are not. Hedge funds are not. People are. 6 million people just this week alone basically saying, holy mackerel, I don't know how I'm going to make my own expenses for the next few weeks, days, months. So it's happening today to individual Americans. And what we've done is disproportionately prop up and protect poor performing CEOs, companies, and boards. And you have to wash these people out.
I mean, I could not have said that any better. You have got to wipe these people out. And the reason why, they are just speculators, they are just paper pushers, they don't build anything, their intellect builds nothing. And that is the things that I preach all about. This guy is a venture capitalist. He is saying, for those people who do something positive, the employees of the company now becomes owners of the company. The employees of the company who make what is really doing within that company can have a bigger share of the company. Those who are speculating, those who are pushing paper and saying, oh, look, I made a 20% return on my investment. Okay, what did you do for that 20%? I risked my capital. Well, you know what? Your employee risked his wrist. Your employee risked is coming into work, risked his life. The person building the bridge risked his body. The person building the home risked their bodies. These people risk something of value. I risked my capital. When I talk about capitalism, only caring about capital and humanity last, that's what I mean. When you hear Donald Trump express so much concern for Boeing, so much concern for the oil companies, no. Populate, inflate the people, inflate the money supply. We have a $675 billion space in there. Inflate that and let the American people choose what companies deserve to succeed. What companies deserve to succeed will be democratically chosen by the American people, not hierarchically by the tax break they get, by the regulation advantages they get, and all of that. COVID-19, folks, give us the ability. COVID-19 give us the ability to restructure this economy into an economy that makes sense for the average American citizen. That's what COVID-19. And if we squander this by electing a whole bunch of centrists, if we squander this by re-electing a bunch of right-wingers, if we squander this by electing a whole bunch of Democrats who do not share in the progressive values that pumps up every single American, then we would have deserved the continual decline into what I call servitude, indentured servitude. So folks, here's what I want you to do. You make sure going forward, these guys are at home. These guys, some may be in Washington. You call each one of them. No bailout for Boeing. No bailout for these corporations. We want bailouts for the American people who are at home right now waiting for the institution of government to develop a vaccine. We want people out there those people that are taking care of business, my grocer, my garbage man, all these people, we want them to have a stipend for what I called hazard pay. We need to start putting value where value belongs. My garbage man deserve more value. That doctor, that nurse, that grocery store worker, the janitor at that grocery store, the guy at the gas station. These are the people. These are the people of value to us. Now that we have the coronavirus, we are hiding at home while the real people of value. And notice I'm even putting a shade on myself. I can sit behind a mic. I can sit behind a camera and be safe. Because that is what I'm doing with my activism. But there are people that have to go out there and work hard. We have to honor those people. That is what we should be doing. We shouldn't be worried about that fat cat living flying his own jet. We shouldn't be concerned about that guy living in a skyscraper where you built, but you can't go into. People, this COVID-19 shows us who is really important in society. Let's not forget that. And it also shows us the lies that capitalism have been telling us about the money supply, etc. But we knew it all along because that a $1.5 trillion tax scam didn't cause inflation. We already knew that modern monetary theory was true, factual, because as long as nobody is running after a scarce resource, in other words, if there's a whole lot of something, then it won't inflate in price. Which is what's happening with gasoline, which is what's happening with petroleum right now, right? But what is our government and the plutocracy trying to do with petroleum? Oh my God, there's a glut. We can't have Americans paying 7 to 8 cents a gallon. We have got to clamp it down. So we are going to create a false scarcity so that the price goes up. So as you see price going up in health insurance, it's not that the prices of your health care changed. It is that they created a false scarcity. When you see your doctor bills going up, it's not that it costs more for the doctor. It is because they want that return for the 1%. We are going to be making 7, 10, 15, 20% return a year. Well, if the whole economy is growing at 2% and you have some fat cats making 20%, guess where that money is coming from, people? You. And when you stand up and support that, and when you stand up and support people that don't support Medicare for all, don't support child care, don't support the Green New Deal where you can actually not live in filth, when you support that audience, when you support those politicians, you are responsible for your own demise. A lot of people don't like to hear that. Now, Biden is now the Democratic nominee, and I'm going to vote for Biden. But when voting for Biden is voting the lesser of two evils, and why is that the case? Because he is a plutocrat as well, supporting their policies. Where is that person? When are we going to force these people to support the people? And stop supporting a fallacy. Stop supporting a lie taught to you by the Powell Manifesto, which had to reinforce from the generation of this country all that was wrong. People, please listen, people, and don't just take it as, oh, there you're venting. I am not venting. This is how things are. And this is the first segment of our show on the economic portion. Now let me bring in my good friend Karl Smith, who is going to talk about COVID. We're going a little bit over because we started a little bit late. And also, this is a rant that I didn't want to not pursue. But this rant continues on Monday, I guarantee you, because we have to get real, brothers and sisters. We must get real. By the way, if you're listening on Facebook, you can go ahead and up chat us at any point. Super chat us at any point. And you know what? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to play Karl Smith now, and we'll move on from there. Welcome to another segment of Politics Done Right. Today, I am honored to have the one and only Karl Smith with Voter Education Project. But you know what? We're not necessarily talking voter education today, though indirectly you can always turn everything into a voting matter. But we're talking about COVID-19, and Karl has done a whole lot of studying on COVID-19. Karl, welcome to Politics Done Right. How are you doing today?
Very good. How are you?
I'm doing great. First, before we even get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about Voter Education Project and how people can get there, what you want to do with it.
Well, I'm a father of a child with autism and kind of concerned person. I'm a computer and electrical engineer. So anyway, I've been watching politics for the last couple of decades and kind of applying some both economic principles and engineering principles and so on, just understanding what's going on and maybe how we can do a little bit better. With COVID, I've been watching looking at the math and just understanding, a few of the basic cause-effect relationships and putting those together and just seeing how our current government is doing so badly in the response and how we could actually do better and then projecting out into the future.
Well, before we even get started on this, you sent me a website that is very disturbing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show that one right now. And folks, what you're going to see on the screen blocking me out is the current death count as of today. And this is a website that Karl just turned us on to. It is called worldmeters.info/coronavirus/country/US. That is where we're at right now. 17,838 deaths so far. New York had a death rate, or rather death last night, this last 24 hours, of 777 people. One state. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Carl, we are talking today about the impact of COVID-19, not only as you see it, but as it is. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that from your perspective?
Well, if we let's look at a few kind of graphs and so on. If you go to the first graph, well, you basically see the death rates increasing daily. Now the worldwide, the last it's been up over 7,000 now a day. It's dying in the world, and added about 85,000 yesterday. You may have a little bit different numbers with the current day. I captured my screen, early enough in the day where it's really capturing yesterday and not the day's numbers. The day's numbers will look a little bit, down a little bit better, but the day isn't complete. We're just partially into the day. So anyway, it's growing quite dramatically there. And if you click on the deaths, there's a little deaths thing. It actually can show you a little blue where the deaths are actually increasing by. They're up to 95,000 worldwide, 7,000 today. The next one to go over to is that second link that I sent you.
Yeah.
Okay, now if you go down, well, you're at the top of the page. If you page down, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and then you'll get to a place, a little bit, keep going down a little bit.
Just tell me what the heading is.
Well, you'll see some graphs, COVID, growth in COVID-19. Yeah, there you go, right there. Okay, now this one actually shows, like the world, currently or thereabouts is doubling every 8 days. And then 13 days for Italy, and 6 days for the United States, and then 10 days, and so on. So the thing to get, to really be watching is how often this thing is, that COVID is doubling. Now you'll see down a little bit further, a lot of the days are 5 and 6 days, and so on. And we were actually, we were doubling every 2.5 days for the first month. So in March, we went from 0 to 4,000 deaths with that rate in 2.5 days, and now we've slowed down to actually in the first 4 days. So it took a month to go the first 4,000 cases, and the next 4,000 cases it took 4 days.
But let me stop you there a second, Carl. These graphs, I am not sure how old they are right now. Maybe you can tell me. I think the last one is up until April 10th, which is actually today. But I mean, I thought I've been reading the news where it says that we are actually the death rate was starting to leave that exponential model because apparently social distancing is working. But this graph that you have here, it seems to me like the last date on it is April 10th, and it still shows almost an exponential growth continuing.
Well, it is, it's just on a lower exponential growth. And we'll get to that in just a minute. If you go back up to that one where it had those, how many days? Yeah, that one there. If you look at beside the days, you'll see, for example, the United States, we're up to 16,690. Now that was yesterday's, or through last night. And that's, a little bit, over to the right of that, it says 1873. And you see those last three little bars, to the right of the United States. Those are, there's been the last 3 days about, 1,900 deaths per day. And we can't use the cases, rate because that's just a small fraction. They're estimating maybe about a tenth, of the actual confirmed cases is actually what's out there. So we're up in about 400 and something thousand cases, confirmed cases in the United States, and they're saying, well, it's probably about 10 times, 10 times that. But anyway, but if we look at the deaths, now the deaths are a little bit off because if it's not confirmed, like if they have a pneumonia or something, and they haven't been able to run the test to find out if if the person has COVID-19, then they don't count it as a COVID-19. Now later on,
I think that is going to be problematic because Governor Cuomo of New York said something that was a bit disturbing, that a lot of people are dying in their homes and that nobody is saying, let's go ahead and test those dead people to see what they had was coronavirus. So what that tells me is in as much as they have reduced the total amount of people they assume will die from, let's say, between 120 and 240 down to 60-something thousand, that may still be inaccurate and the actual models may be correct, but we just don't know. Am I saying that as you see it?
Right. Yeah, we'll get a better count over time, but even so, it's going to be a lot, looking at the death, what's changing in the death rates and the number of deaths and so on, is going to be a lot more accurate than what's happening with the testing. If we were actually testing and testing, 150,000 people a day, that's just ridiculous. I mean, they need to be gearing up for testing, millions per day. I mean, we need to, gear up to test, to be prepared to test, to run 1 billion tests. Because we're 333 million people.
Well, actually, that is correct because you need to have recurrent tests to see when somebody goes from positive to negative, right?
Yeah, and some people need to be tested multiple times. Some people won't need to be tested until we know it's in their community and so on. But there's also two different types of tests. So it's like we need up in the billions of each type of test. One is for the virus itself, and the other is for the antibody to find out what who has had it. Let's go over to that graph that I'd sent you. We're looking at the 2x graph, and if you look at the row in beige, the very top part of the top row is in yellow and stuff. But you look 2 rows down, it'll say 2.5. What that is basically, and if you look at under the 1 month, there's 4 or 5 columns out there. You'll see 1 month. It says 4,000 or 4K. So that's basically what happened to the United States. Before we were really starting to do anything in terms of mitigating, what's going on here. So it went from 0 or 1 or 2. To 4,000 or up in the thousands of times increase in 1 month. And so if it's doubling every 2.5 days, it means in 3 and a third doublings basically is a 10 times increase. So when people are looking at, there's only a few cases here. Well, you got to realize that few cases in 3 and a third double. So it's like in 9 days, then that few cases is going to be 10 times higher. And then in 18 days, it's going to be 100 times higher. In 27 days, it's going to be 1,000 times higher. So when the president started seeing that we had just a few cases, but then if you're looking at the doubling rates and so on, how fast that was growing, and I'm sure the CDC and all this, they understood, the exponential growth here. So even though you're only looking at a few people dead, you shouldn't be saying, everything's going to go away, or even, you're just your few cases. Everything's going to go away in a few days. We're going to get, we got 15 people, it's going to go away. Instead of that, unless there was something actually to stop it, which they had done, then, you would expect to continue that growth. And that's what happened. So for the next month, we had 4,000 people die. And if we basically did that, you look at 1 more month, we'd be up to 17 million people, which is basically more than what would actually die because the death rate isn't that high. So, and also as you get up into starting to impact, in the last 10% or the last, when you're going in the last part of that, you're going from 1% to 10%, then you're going 10% to 100% of the population. then you start getting a lot less cases.
Let me stop you there and ask a question, because I think there was some data out there that suggested about half of the American population will ultimately get this COVID-19. Is that correct?
Well, that's up in the air. That may or may not happen depending on what they do. If they really clamp down on this and hopefully we'll be, long before that, then we would have vaccines and treatments and all that. If you look at the bottom graph, the maximum death at 100% of population exposure, there's it shows, for different exposure rates, or different death rates from 1 to 5%. And then it shows what SARS did at 6.5%. And then Ebola basically is 27. It's actually 27, 52. There's 5 or 6 or more strains of Ebola. A few of them are, they don't have any deaths, but then there's 3 of them that are pretty deadly at 27%.
80%, yeah.
Yeah, 27, 52, and then 80. I only did the 27 to 79. So, at different, for the United States, you're looking at how many people would die under those different impact rates. The United States right now, if you look at the graph right above that, this middle graph, we're at 0.664 percent. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the old one there. Let me get up my newer one.
You can just estimate, Karl. It doesn't have to be exact, because what we're trying to do is kind of give people the impact of this in general.
Right. Well, basically, okay, so at 1 in 1,000, so, now that we're up into a much higher range where we're looking at, 1 in 1,000, when we're up into, several hundred, several 100,000 cases confirmed, that means that, we're up around, we're 333 million people. So we're 1 in 1,000 or so at that level, that would be, confirmed. So basically, that's 0.1%, but, that doesn't sound like a lot. The problem is that 10 times that, so after you go through, if you're iterating every, 5 days, that means, in 15 days, it's going to be 10 times, or a little more, like 18 days. You're going to be about 8, you're going to be another 10 times that, so if you're at, 1 in 1,000, 15 days later or so, you're 1 in 100.
Right.
Then 15 days later, you're 1 in 10.
Yeah.
And 15 days later,
that's called exponential, yeah. Now,
right.
Now, the interesting thing is we have the numbers now. Everybody just heard us spend, I guess, 10 minutes or so talking numbers. Here's the reality. How will COVID-19 change us as a country, us as a world? Because, a lot of all these numbers, people start to get, wow, it is bad. Let's not start talking about it as how is this going to change our country? How is this going to change our world? And in the prep for this program, you have some interesting bullet points that I think we need to go over.
All right. So obviously, they had said, well, sicker people and older people and so on are going to die. Unfortunately, the U.S. population is pretty sick. And actually, in the graphs and everything, there was some information about the percentage of people that were dying compared to the number of cases, and there's some discussions around that. But kind of skipping over that, we're going to have a lot more, and we're going to have between 2% or 3 or 4% of people dying from this, and then after that, there's the people that die because they weren't able to get proper medical care. They're dying of other things. They had a car accident, and then but the medical system's overwhelmed, or they needed an operation or whatever, or something got delayed. So there's going to be a lot of other people, dying and stuff because not because of COVID itself, but because of, the resources that took up. And then a lot of it's, opening our, economy and all of that. it's all a function of how aggressive do we get with clamping down on this thing? If we really get aggressive on the masks, on top of the social distancing and hand washing, the kind of ice or the stay at home type of directives and so on. If we get people to wear masks out, that's going to have a huge impact, on top of everything else on, how fast this thing gets clamped down. So if we don't get people wearing masks, and I'm talking about like what the Surgeon General was showing is just like the little, hand, or scarves that you fold up. It cuts down the amount, certainly that exhaled from a person or really has a good block against that. Now they say that they're not effective on, on basically protecting somebody that somebody else is around you that has it. But, the reality is that one layer of they said, there was a study, there was one layer of cloth, blocked even the small particles like 40%. But like the way that they're folding this, like this one has like 8 layers of material. And then the larger particles are going to get trapped. And this is all about, how much viral load you get when you're exposed. So the more you can cut that down, the more unfavorable the conditions are for transmission. So if we do these things, and I know Americans we're pretty proud and pretty conceited and everything. We really don't want to wear face masks, and so, but I am seeing a big increase in face mask use at stores and Walmart and all that when people are out in public. And we'll do that, then like Korea or Taiwan, they never had a shelter-in-place order. They got people, they had a number of procedures, social distancing, but strong use of face masks and all that. They never locked down their country, and they have, well, let's see, it was 5 deaths at the beginning of the month. Now it's 6 deaths. So they're doing a really, really good job.
They're very disciplined. Now, in some of the things that you sent over here, you had something I wondered about, and I'm skipping around here because I really should have asked that question about how the world changes near the end. But before I do that, I want to come. You said in one of the notes, in reality, COVID-19 is bad, but it's not as bad as a pandemic could be. Explain.
Right. Well, and that one graph I was showing Ebola and SARS and everything. So if you had much higher transmission, mortality rates, but also it was more easily transmitted. This one is relatively. I mean, it can get spread around. Ebola was harder to transmit, and although its death rate is a lot higher, so it was able to get contained. And plus, we had an administration, at the time that really helped the world and helped the areas that were having this problem. But if we had one that was, had a 20% mortality, had a 60 or 80%,
with this transmission rate,
right? Or the transmission right now that they're saying, well, a person that gets it infects on the average of 2 and a couple or 3 people. So but if a person got it and it, infected 10 people, that would be worse. And unfortunately, this one, it's hard to see somebody or somebody gets sick slowly. And so you don't know that somebody even has it before they're already out, spreading it to other people.
I think that's an important concept because, early on into this epidemic, I wrote a piece for Daily Kos, and I really got castigated, rightfully so, because when I saw the death rate of 2% or something like that, I said, it is bad, but I mean, the good thing about it is most Americans are going to do just fine, because if you look at the sick population that you spoke about before, the sick population is pretty high in the United States, and so that's understandable there. Well, the person came back and said, you need to really learn how infections work. And he said, The problem with corona is that corona is very infectious, so it affects a lot of people. Ebola, yes, it's bad, but Ebola wasn't nearly as infectious as this one is. In other words, as transmissible, I guess is what I should say.
Right. Well, and if you get a high enough load, even very healthy people are having a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so our medical workers, and and it's just ridiculous that just think how inexpensive in the context of everything it would be to have a billion or two masks around. I mean, even if everybody had their own mask. I had some N95 masks in my garage. I didn't even realize I was buying such a good mask when a few years ago.
I did too, and it was my wife told me, don't be wearing that outside because people are going to say you're taking it away from the healthcare worker. And it's like, no, this is a dirty N95 that I was scrubbing something with,
Right, yeah. My wife has, allergies and respiratory issues, so she uses them. I mean, they've been used, but we're going to use them over and over and over, and we're going to, we're disinfecting them and so on. So there's not something we can pass on to somebody else. But
well, you just said disinfect. How do you disinfect an N95 mask?
Well, she's putting some Lysol on it.
Okay,
you can also put them on, put them out in the sun, and evidently, another good thing about COVID-19 is that it's not a very durable virus. So, so it doesn't last too long. If you really kind of, if you wash your hands pretty good, it's like the fabrics, like these things, and if you just kind of wash them a bit, for a while and dry them out, then it's not going to infect you. It's all about how much virus do you get enough? Is it enough to really launch an infection?
Right.
If you can get that amount down, you just have a better and better chance. Plus, if you can get that amount down, then your body has a chance to launch its own defenses. But if you get those huge doses, and what we're exposing our medical workers and first responders to a lot of times is these very large doses of the virus that even young people, are having a problem with and dying. Unfortunately, we're hearing more and more cases of healthy people, dying, young, healthy people dying. I'm not talking young under 60. I'm talking young under 30 and under.
I got you. We got to move on because you came on and said COVID-19. One of the things that we really should be working on very highly right now is testing. And you're concerned that is something that we're not doing. So go ahead.
Yeah, basically, we can't. The president wants to reopen everything in May, but with the growth rates, you get one case in a community, and without any kind of mitigating procedures, you're going to have within less than 10 days, you're going to have it 10 times that, and less than, so 18 days, you're going to have 100 times that, so if we don't have these things, and we know it's out all over the place. And so the hotspots now, they're not, they won't be the hotspots, you kind of lock down those places, but it's out all over the place. And if we're not doing aggressive testing, then we don't know who has it, who doesn't have it. And we really have, this is, the kind of like, shelter in place, shelter at home. It's kind of a stone age, tool. We've got a stone hammer here that we're clubbing this thing with instead of being able to use a scalpel. If you were testing people, like China didn't shut down their whole society. Taiwan didn't shut down their whole society and all this, but they did isolate people. They did, if you can keep it down, the transmission rate low enough, you can actually do case, or transmission, tracking, and then that's a much, so then you can keep people out working, keeping the economy alive. So if we want to get back to that, we've got to really ramp up to, and get serious about producing 1 billion tests, and then from there, the next billion, and so on. So we're going to need, and this is chump change, their latest numbers are, we're going to take off like in the second quarter, about 40% of GDP. Our economy is $22 trillion. Okay. 40% of that, about $8 trillion, lost. That's annualized and stuff. So at least a couple of $1 trillion just for that quarter alone. $1 trillion. We're not talking about a few billion or even a few $100 billion or whatever. We're talking about in the trillions. Have everybody with a mask up front, not even, these masks, but, an N95 mask, have those in people's homes, all of that would have been chump change.
Karl, one of the problems with America is it is run by a business sect. And the business, unfortunately, you are an engineer. Unfortunately. And what that really means is that you think. A business person, or a lot of the business, the titans of finance, in as much as somebody like you may not quite say that, these are not deep thinkers. These are guys that have learned, they've gone to the McCone School of Business or the Harvard School of Business or whatever, and they learn these numerical charts that govern this economic system. And that's all they see. They don't see the intrinsics. They can't think through different levels of indirection like an engineer or a scientist or a good teacher would think. But those are the ones who run our economy. And COVID, I think, is one of the issues that will expose this. And I'm hoping with your platform, Voter Education Project, and these other types of platforms, that we will have people who can reach different audiences to inform folks on those issues.
Right.
Because, go ahead.
I'm less critical on the business community and more, it's more about, but business can't solve this thing, by itself. We really need heavy government involvement in this. For example, there's like one mask manufacturer, N95 manufacturer there in Texas. And, they were interviewing him and he said, well, we're doing about 650,000 masks a day right now. We could be a lot more. But the last time he ramped up, back in the SARS or maybe Ebola or something. Anyway, he got orders, and so he got a bunch of orders in a short period of time. He hired a bunch of 150 people, and made all these extra investments and everything. And then he basically just hit the wall. Nobody was. And so that's where government comes in and says, okay, we're going to give this person a long-term contract, or this company a long-term contract. Okay, so he can't just go all of a sudden just, here's how to do this. He could be creating, he says $1 million, but I mean, if the government came in and gave him a really good contract, I mean, maybe he could be $10 million a day or something much higher. And we need to really get, $1 billion masks created,
Yes.
And as a, as kind of a first, goal, and then have
Karl,
a good.
You said something important. You said something important earlier. You mentioned the size of the economy. You then mentioned the investment that would be made, even to make that businessman who knows how to make masks whole. In other words, and this is, you're right, where government comes in, right? Government we need to have that guy when we need to have that guy. So therefore, if there's an oversupply of masks because we didn't exactly know where this is, that was an investment in that oversupply of masks based on the trajectory.
And we're going to need them in the future.
Right. Well, Bill Gates said something. It's amazing, similar to what you just said. Bill Gates said there are 3 or 4 vaccine paths right now that they're working on. And they have already started building the factory for all 4 of them. He said it is likely 3 of those factories will not be, will just be thrown away.
Right.
And
what public should fund is to fund all 4 of those, and then basically then the ones that really work, basically then really put a lot more money into that one, and then go with that.
Exactly. But that's not the risk that our economic system takes.
Government, the industrial military complex, that's actually how they work, and so we need to be treating this as a war. And so if we want a new plane, a new fighter plane, we get, several government contractors, we give them, some development money. They go off and build, 3 or 4 different versions of what we want, and then we pick what's going to work the best. So, and then that company gets the go forward contract. So there's all sorts of ways that we can really just, this country has a lot of might and a lot of creative people, and we just have to have the right, we have to have we have to counter these ideas that business solves everything, that we don't really need, need small government and states, state rights, and states should be doing everything on world. We're freaking Americans, we need to talk. We need to think as a nation, and we need to realize that government has a critical role to be able to protect us through welfare. And the Constitution, the welfare, the government's supposed to look out for the welfare of the people. These are not things that individuals or individual businesses or anything like that can control. We have to have our faith and put our faith and vote, for the right people that actually believe in frickin' government. And then
I love that, and that is one of the tenets of your new organization, Voter Education Project, isn't it?
Right. It's basically trying to show people how bottom-up economics actually works. When we invest in what our people and our businesses need to thrive, they do. When we don't invest in those things, they don't. And one of those investments, it's education, it's health, it's research, infrastructure, safe community, but it's safety, community development. It's also safety nets. So safety nets, basically, if we don't, kind of rescue, areas that get wiped out for something, or like with the virus here, where it can really hit anybody, anywhere, if we don't basically fix those as a system and make those whole, then it pulls all of us down. So there might be a few winners or whatever, but most of us are losers in this by not being proactive. Yes, that's the other thing that the GOP believes in, is reactive government, not proactive government. We teach our kids, we discipline or we chastise our kids for not, seeing that such and such would have happened. So why didn't they take steps to, prevent it? Why can't we chastise ourselves or chastise our leaders to say, okay, if something is happening, we can see something happening, and we put a lot of money into all sorts of National Institutes of Health, CDC, and all, lots of research. We know about these things. We don't know everything about things, but we know a lot. And we know that these things can basically, go through these exponential growth and all of that. It's not new. And the Obama administration put in stuff in place. Trump administration got rid of that stuff. So we're less prepared. And basically, the Trump administration is going to be responsible for killing tens of thousands of us, if not tens of hundreds of thousands, if not up into the millions. Because the people that'll die, like right now we're at 17,000 people thereabouts. Another doubling, which is, they say, 6 days. Every 6 days it doubles. Or I'm sorry, it doubles.
You're right.
Okay, 10 times on that. Okay, so it went from 4,000 for the first month, another 4,000 in the next 4 days. So that was a big slowdown. So it was like that was 4 days.
No, Karl, you're right. The exact numbers are immaterial. The concept that you're putting out there is what matters, and that is actually so right. Now let's move that back, because you hit a whole lot of stuff there, and I want to reiterate. Therefore, and here's the therefore that I want to bring on. If we finally realize, because I knocked our business schools, I knocked our executives a few times, and I know that based on the way you run your activism, that is not where you are. But I found it interesting. I found it interesting that all those items that you support, all those good things that you support, meaning what government needs to do, how government should work with let's say corporations, etc., are all the things that currently a sect of them are against. And I think that points out to the need of the kind of work that you are putting your effort into with Voter Education Project. Because I think one of the things that I've been saying, Karl, is let's start giving the monies to the people directly, and they will vote with their monies what companies are worthwhile to them, as opposed to the other way around. I think if we start thinking that way, and the only way we can think that way if some of the work people like you are doing on voter education, etc., is successful.
Well, it's about unrigging the system. I mean, we got a terribly rigged system at this point, and the progressives. I mean, a lot of the stuff that progressives are after, it's actually not like loony out of the left wing stuff. These are actually solid. They have good, solid, macroeconomic principles and behavioral principles. And, some of my work is actually showing where we shouldn't actually think of those things as really progressive. I mean, conservatives should really be on board with a lot of these things because, if you go against the way things work, if you go against human nature, you go against just the way the economy works, it's not going to work out for what you're trying to do in that direction. So if you understand a few fundamentals, and that's what we're trying to get back to is fundamentals that everybody should get and understand how those connect together to show what we have to do to have a good economy, a good, good democracy, that will really be proactive and help, and we'll be in so much better shape. And actually, there's a fight within the kind of capitalistic system, from basically from this idea that shareholders have, primacy, and businesses, shouldn't have to worry about other stakeholders to basically like B Corps and all that, where they're saying, no, we need to look at all of our stakeholders here. The customer, the employee, the environment, the community, and stuff, and not just the shareholders. They can make money. They need to make money to stay in business, obviously, but not at the expense of externalizing all the negatives. They have to make money by actually doing something that's right for a number of groups and not just the shareholders. And they will do well. Actually, they don't do well with an unstable economy. There's going to be a bunch of rich people losing their frickin' shirts, because their income is not just their wealth is not just in their income. It's the value of their assets. If we take a $22 trillion, $16 trillion, or $14 trillion economy, people aren't going to be doing, lots of people, including some wealth. And there's plenty of wealthy people that are against the system. They've made money through the system, but they realize that even if they didn't have quite as much money, they would actually do better because they'd have a stable system. And they may actually make more money because the economy would be even that much bigger. Instead of a $22 trillion a year economy, you'd be at a $32 trillion a year economy. If we basically, we go after poverty and all of this. Anyway,
what you're saying is prescient. There's so much to that, and not only so much to that, but we'll have to cover in another show why that is the case. Because I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm not going to ask you for a response on this one because I know where you're going to be on the response for this one. But my thing is that it is by design that we don't necessarily want Americans to have a free will in a free enterprise system, because then everybody would really have equal access to success. And that means that those who have been able to use capital as the form of further extraction wouldn't be able to do that anymore. But we'll talk about that another time when we can organize it better. But Karl, let me tell you, you gave a good outline here that you sent when we were going to talk about this show. There are a lot of issues on the outline that we didn't go through. So I have a big favor to ask of you, and that is, your time is precious, but when you have some time, this well-prepared document, I would love to see in a form that, in some form of an article that I can actually reblog from your votereducationproject.org, right? votereducationproject.com site, because I think the bullet points that you have here, many of which we didn't discuss here, is imperative that people see it. Well-prepared document. So give me a closer, Karl, and let's get out of here.
Well, wear masks if you're in public. This is going to have a huge impact on the rate of transmission. Do the social distancing and all that, and then push on government at like hell and the Trump administration, to get the frickin' act together and realize we're one nation. We need our government to come in, and coordinate the logistics and, get the companies to do we've got the businesses that will actually produce this stuff. We just need all that coordinated and paid for. and not leaving them out in the wind and saying, hell with you, once this thing is over, because they can't make that business calculation and just leave lots of people unemployed and just, and themselves in financial ruin and all that. So, fix that frickin' problem. That's not a hard one to fix. And, let's do this thing. Damn it.
Karl Smith, let's fix that freaking problem. It's been my pleasure to have you on. We'll do this again. We'll do this on more specific projects on voter education project and on others. Thank you so kindly for having a guest here on Politics Done Right.
Oh, thank you. And if you want to look at, any of the audience wants to look at, one, like a 10-minute, or actually, I think it's about 10 minutes, 11 minutes, a little video called How Bottom-Up Economics Works. If you go to www.votereducationproject.com /HBUEW, How Bottom-Up Economics Works. And there's a little 10-minute video.
I'll put that in the blog post for this show. And I'll also put the link to the video to get to your blog, and so they can watch it at your blog site. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so kindly, Karl. I'm Egberto. Okay, folks, that was Karl Smith. An expert on several subjects, business owner, the works, everything. So folks can't just call him, some sort of a socialist or whatever. Just like many of us, we've had businesses, we have business. What we do believe in is free enterprise. I'm going to post this video inside of the blog when I'm done here. Look, we're running over. I figure we'll run over by, probably 5 more minutes or so. Let me run through the screen here to see if anything. I don't want to leave anybody hanging. Too bad OPEC is going nowhere. That is what Troy Astro had to say. Lee Grant says, whoa, the coronavirus is such a bad thing that Egberto can use it to just politicize it. I'm breaking down what he said, of course. Terry Newsom says, if you want Trump to try and stop the coronavirus, you shouldn't have told him to disproportionately kill brown people and the poor. All right, Troy Astro, replying to Terry Newsom, he's going to do nothing but cheat at golf. Well, that's what he does. Let's say Sims says, Sims, you don't like Bernard Sanders, huh? Let me tell you something, man. I'm pretty sure his policies are better for you, but that'll come later. I pumped gas at 78 cents a gallon. Brother, where did you do that, Senor Jose R. Gomboa? Daniel Ledo. Egberto, do you realize the downside if your MMT doesn't work? Here's the thing, brother. MMT has always worked because we've gone beyond Keynesian economics and started to use MMT as soon as we inflated the banks in 2008, as well as inflating not inflating, but giving a donation, a tax cut scam to the folks a couple of years ago. So no, we know the downside. There is a way to calculate what the economy can, how much money you can print into an economy, and that is where prices start to rise, right? Where you start to get inflation, and you start to get inflation when you start to develop scarcities. Now, what Trump is trying to do is create artificial scarcity by dropping back the production of oil. Now, that's a good thing for the environment, but from a capitalist economic standpoint, they're playing crony capitalism there. It is just not the way capitalism works. Now, I think capitalism is a failure in that we should be able to stop gasoline and oil long time ago if we had invested all the excess price in gas into renewable energies. By now, we would be a renewable country. But hey, what can I say? Business prevails. To hell with humanity. Lee Grant says MMT is very simple. What dollars you need, is dollars you print. Yeah, to some extent. What dollars you need, you have dollars to print. And let me explain that in a better term, Lee Grant. You said that to be funny. Unfortunately, in being funny, you're right, my brother Lee Grant. Because if I have a worker here, and I have a job to be done here, and I have an abundance of plants, food, and all of that, if I ever use the excuse that I can't pay this worker to build that street because I have no money, I say print the money, and it's not really printing the money. These are all ledgers. These are all ledgers on screen, right? But anyway, I say pay that guy to fix that street because when he starts to make money, there will still be enough bananas for him to buy. There won't be a scarcity of bananas. There won't be a scarcity of peanuts. There won't be a scarcity of all these things that he needs. So therefore, the limiting factor in capitalism is a false sense of scarcity. I know this is above the pay grade of some who don't really get into economics, but that is a reality. They don't want you to know that, because if we inflate this economy to its maximal point and don't have false scarcities, what it means is that people who really have good ideas will start to produce the things they want to produce. They will start to be who they are. And we will no longer be under the control of the plutocrats. And they don't want that. The only control they have is to have us fearful of not having a job, because they want to make jobs scarce. Because if there's job scarcity, and this is a sort of an odd kind of a thing, right? It means that the people come cheap. I want you to understand that concept. It's very important. Okay, Saudis are flooding the oil market right now. Yeah, they're flooding the oil market, but they got the oil to do it. There isn't a scarcity of oil. So why not flood the oil unless we start putting in regulations that we can't burn the oil? If I were the Saudis, I'd flood the damn thing too. Put a whole lot of folks out of business. It's capitalism. It's dog eat dog. It's not humanity. We want to put a humane system in, we can. But we just let them kill themselves, you know. All right, Rosalinda Perez. Jose Gamboa, what's ST, or I don't know what that means. Okay, let's see. Whoa, coronavirus is such a tiny thing. 120 million. You said that already. Come on, man. You said that already. All right, let's see. Bruce Ballard, welcome aboard too. 120 millimeters is a long way. I don't think it's, nanometers, not millimeters, nanometers. Okay, that's very small, yeah. Bruce, 120 millimeters is a long way, almost 1/4 of the way to blue light. Normal Reynolds says, we are living with the effects of one side of the political spectrum's trickle down and complete corporatism, i.e. socialism for business. Without looking at the downside, we need to see MMT and give it the same benefit of the doubt. You know what, though? We don't have to give it the benefit of the doubt, though, my dear brother Norman, because we have been practicing it, just not for the average American citizen. Derek Bell, you notice these people out more that, I know a lot of people are starting to go out. Look, the truth of the matter is there's a way to intelligently associate, right? And there's a way to unintelligently associate. The problem that the people who write our laws have to be is they have to go with the least common denominator. You know, that goes with things like sex and all of that, right? I mean, if a group of folks are going to be, and I don't mean to get this, going to be in a certain way, then you can't transmit what you ain't got. All right, that is the bottom line. In any disease, in anything, even in paying a bill, you can't pay a bill if you ain't got the money. You can't transmit a disease if you ain't got it. All right. Now, Lawrence Sims, Dirty Don. Oh, I said that already. Let's see what else we have. Troy asked Derek Bell, I'm 100% voting for Biden, best we got right now, and I pray that we do not live through 4 more years of Trump again. Look, I cannot vote for Trump, so therefore I'll vote for Biden now that the race is ultimately over, and Bernie Sanders is going to do the same. I think we need to extract a pound of flesh to make sure that we get the best that we can, and we don't give our vote away for free. In other words, we're not going to get the full Medicare for all because it's Biden, but we damn well should get a big piece of it. So let's we have to start to find ways to scare them into saying, you know what, we better say we're going to do these things, and then they're all going to say they're going to do it, and then when they go into office they don't. But that is where the movement comes in, and that's why I was happy to hear folks like Tim Black on another show. I think I've heard TYT and these other folks talk about, look, the movement isn't Bernie, the movement is us. So we're going to keep the movement up to get the policies that we want. I had a good friend today and it warmed my heart, the conversation we had on Facebook, because a lot of ways she doesn't agree with, specifically as left as I am. But she said, my God, we need you and your guys to continue doing what you're doing. So, I mean, a friend of mine, we have disagreements in how left we want to go. But the thing about it is there's absolute mutual respect there. Troy Astro, whether voting, I know you're voting for, I get it, Troy. I get it. You and I need to have a little one-on-one conversation and so on this. I understand what you're saying. And unfortunately, Troy, you are right. But I'm not pure. And I don't want any of us to be pure. And I'll explain at another time. Lee Grant, the world is full of traps. Well, Lee Grant, that is right. One of my other favorite right-wingers, brother Lee Grant. Lee Grant, by the way, I enjoy having you here, and I enjoy you putting in your 2 cents. And by the way, Lee Grant, you're a progressive. You just don't realize it. There are a few words that you've used, and I am going to, in the long run, extract it out of you, brother. Love you, man, but you're progressive, Lee Grant. All right, Deborah Rose. Trump should be impeached. Yes, he was impeached. He just wasn't taken out of office. Let's see. You're in luck. He was impeached. Lee Grant, you're funny. Okay. Let's see. Who else do I have here? Linda Lauren. I don't think I've seen you here before, Linda Lauren. Thank you so kindly for being here. My small town is up to 300 cases, 9 deaths. Linda, please send me a email what town that is. My senior house building has 1 case that I know of, and we cannot have visitors. Please, your Bergen County, New Jersey, has the most of any Jersey. Wow, we're close to New York City. I'm sorry to hear that, Linda. Sorry to hear that. Lawrence, how are actual homeless people on the street being tested? They're not. And they're not calculated. So good pickup. Milton Gibson, mi panameño favorito. ¿Cómo estás, hermano mío? Here is a virus checker. It has been using. Okay, I see that. Thank you, sir. Bruce says that's the graph is wrong. Okay, not you. I'm going to have to go through a little quicker because I need to close this baby out. Bruce says they are not really that good. I think they listen to pundits who don't really know the science, which is just enough. Okay. I got you, Bruce. I got you. All right, let's see what else. 1913, the big problem was a mutation of the virus from Bruce. Yeah, I read about that. And let's see, Bruce also says, Mark, masks are the way to go if you have to go out. Yeah, brother, before they made it official, I was doing that, man. Hey, come on. Mr. Gibson, ¿a quién está llamando puto? ¿Quién llamaste puto? What you call? Porque alguien te llamó culero. That is funny. All right. Bruce Ballard, 0 is important. Linda, a YouTube video can make mass. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Vamos a ver. Ebola, was it? God, you guys keep writing, and I don't like to leave anything stranded. Linda Lauren, it's so much worse because people don't generally know they have it for I know, Linda, that is so real. I can't read your whole thing right now. I gotta go them real fast. So according to Egberto, people who run businesses are stupid. They can't think as high level as him. I don't think I was even saying that when I spoke to brother Karl. I told brother Karl that he thought through different levels of indirection. Yes, I do too. But what I'm trying to say is the businessmen that run these big corporations, it's either that they are not very smart or they are evil. That's it, Lado. You can decide which one you want to choose. You watch what they put on as preeminent, and then you can determine. You tell me which one are they. Are they smart? Are they not smart? Or are they evil? Meaning they're smart, therefore doing what they do, knowing it'll hurt people, they're simply evil. Okay, let's see. Danny, so this guy proposing a proactive government merely. Karl knows what he's talking about, Ledo. He's learned in these issues. Troy says, the end. Linda says, I used to call in your show years ago on Blog Talk. Linda, really? Well, look, I'm glad that you found us here on, I guess you're on Facebook Live or YouTube? Facebook Live. Okay, great. And so this is correct. Okay, folks, I'm going to be closing down the show. But before I need to remind you all that this is a call-in show that requires your support. Please consider going to store.politicsdoneright.com to support us. We have cups, books, including my book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. That is how you can get your start, easy to understand on how this economy works and how they really, really, really creep up on us, folks. And we also have, of course, my other book, This is How I Got Healthy for, even being an activist. A lot of us activists aren't very healthy. That's how it is. We just do this stuff. Anyhow, but you can also, what I really need from you guys are subscriptions. Please consider subscribing at patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. For those who are watching the video of this show, I scroll all the different ways that you can assist the program underneath constantly, and I also provide where our Twitch account is, where our YouTube and all of that is. But including there are all our podcasts, both on TuneIn, YouTube. What is the other one that we do now? Spotify. We can be found everywhere. So you want to listen to the show, you want to share the show, listen to us on any platform. But what we need to do is have all these programs showing so that we can start making a difference. So again, to become a supporter, go to Patreon, patreon.com/politics done right. And if you want to be a contributor, go to paypal.me/politics done right. Folks, I really appreciate your ears. Today was a long show because anytime I have any kind of word or speaking with Karl, it goes away, and I never want to cut anything. I cut a little piece out of the Karl stuff that we did, but he's an insightful person, and he's working very hard for the movement. He's a guy that I love dearly. Anyhow, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this baby. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.